Ooh, loved ones, let me tell y'all something. Stop using disabled people as your example of life looking worse. You know, when you're trying to encourage your other non-disabled friends and you go, oh, life could always be worse. You could end up in a wheelchair. The Who invited us to this conversation? We ain't had nothing to do with what your friend is going through. Stop doing that. Because you're continuing to perpetuate the message that living a life with a disability is life looking worse. Because there's a lot of people with disabilities who love their life, who feel like their quality of life has actually gotten better since becoming a person with a disability. So stop using us as the example of life looking worse. I've seen pastors do it. I've seen motivational speakers do it. Famous people do it. And I'm tired of it. Because it's not fair. Because the message you're sending to the disabled person who hasn't started their journey of self-love is that, yeah, their life is worse. And there's nothing they can do about it. And there's no way for it to make it better. And that's not true. And stop using us as the example of life looking worse. So all my disabled people, keep living life and making it look good, boo. I'm tired of that. Okay, I love y'all.
Hello everyone, this is Emmanuel Cook. We will be reacting to a new video today, so make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's get into the video.
If you are chronically ill or disabled, and you live alone, and you take care of yourself, I want you to know I see you. And I recognize my own privilege by having a full-time caregiver in the home. My husband's traveling with his daughter right now in Europe. I was supposed to go, my ticket was purchased, but I couldn't go for a few reasons, so we are both miserable, and I am here. And it's better that I'm not there because they're getting to explore castles and a bunch of stuff that would have been difficult for me to get to from an accessibility standpoint, so I'm fine with it. But the impact on my health after having to take care of myself and the house and the property and the dogs after only a couple days is significant. And I am headed into a crash. And I feel so guilty because here I am falling apart after only a few days. And this is how many, many, many people live. They have to take care of themselves. The actions of taking care of yourself, doing everything, takes so much more energy than people realize.
When it comes to disability and chronic illness, people don't give enough weight to how much just all of the little things, all of just the little things that we deal with on a daily basis, how much all of those little tiny heartbreaks really affect us. Like people often think about like, oh, it must be so disappointing that you don't get to be a mom, or you didn't get to finish your doctorate the way you wanted. You didn't get to do have the career you wanted. That is super disappointing. You don't get to go to school. You don't get to have friends. You don't get to go. That is so disappointing. But they don't think about just every day. All the constant little reminders that we have to deal with, that we always have to deal with. Like I just went out to go get my prescriptions, and I was at the drive-through, and the girl looked at my car, and I was in my mom's car, and it's a nice car. And the girl was like, oh my gosh, that's a really nice car. And I was like, it's my mom's car. I could never afford this kind of car. This is a really nice car. And she was like, oh my God, if I had that car, like I'd be downtown, like driving downtown, like living it up. And I was like, immediately when she said that, I felt sad. I wanted to, like, I felt choked up. I could feel the tightness in my throat. I felt my heart ache. When she said that, I felt sad. And why is that? Because I can't go live it up downtown with my mom's car. I feel like shit. I'm gonna go sit at home. You know? I haven't gone out in years. I don't go out. I go driving downtown when Tyler has gone to a concert or a football game and I'm picking him up. That's when I drive downtown at night. And it's just to drive, to pick him up, to drive home. And these little things, they happen all the time. And people don't mean, it's not like the girl was like, I'm going to make this girl feel bad. I'm going to bring up going downtown with a car. She doesn't know I'm chronically ill disabled. She couldn't tell I'm driving a car. For all she knows, I'm non-disabled and I can go dancing downtown and have a whole night out and be fine. She doesn't know I don't feel good. She doesn't know I can't go downtown and go out. She doesn't know that. She didn't do it on purpose, but it makes me sad. People aren't doing it on purpose, but people bring things up like this all the time. Like, of course, they're just like, people are just saying, like, how are you? I feel like shit. Like, terrible. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. You know, like, just, it's like all the time. But, like, you know, I don't think people, like, really think about this. Like, people think about, oh, like, that must suck because, like, you can't, you know, you can't have the family you wanted, or, you know, you can't have the career you wanted. But people don't think about how every single day, any interaction, every little thing you do, every step you take, everything you handle is a constant reminder that, like, your body is failing you. And it sucks ass. And it's a hard way to live. And I don't think people, like, really think about that enough. But that's it. I love you all. Bye.
As someone who is able-bodied, aka me, you know what I mean? I don't live with a disability. I don't think that us able-bodied people think enough about how inconvenient our modern world is for people living with disabilities. And you may be like, where is this coming from? So last night we went to dinner for my mom's birthday, right? And we're sitting there, I'm about to get into my meal, okay? I'm about to get into these $30 lamb chops. And all of a sudden, a hostess comes by, taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, could you move your chair in? Like, this lady's trying to get past. Well, then I'm like, sure. So I move, and then I look, and it is a woman in a wheelchair that's trying to get by, right? But it's just like, how inconvenient is that? Do you know what I mean? Like, the restaurant should just be built to accommodate people. Like, it shouldn't be such a thing, because now it's like she's saying thank you to me when I didn't do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't even be an instance in which she has to be inconvenienced. So then I started thinking about, like, how trash day, if you're in a wheelchair and everybody's trash is thrown all over, especially here in Philly, how you probably can't maneuver around in your wheelchair. So where do you have to go? Probably into the street. Like, now that's dangerous. And I just started thinking of, like, all the instances in my everyday daily routine that would suddenly become incredibly difficult. And I just don't think that is right. Like, I've been thinking about this lady since yesterday because of how messed up that we live in this time where we have phones and I could talk to thousands of you from a phone, but we can't build a restaurant with adequate space for somebody with a wheelchair. It's insane.
So I'm, like, sitting here in my car right before I go to grab, like, some food to eat. Taking all my medications. I mean, I just sat down, did 3 pills, 2 vials, and then I have to take another pill, to be honest. That's a lot. And I just think about how I'm doing this, and people are watching me as I pass by, like, in this handicap parking spot, looking at me like I shouldn't be in this spot. I think it's just, like, crazy. It's almost, like, mind-numbing, like, how much of a ghost I feel like, just completely having to do so much work for this to, like, keep up, and then it's just, like, I look like everybody else and nobody knows anything, you know? And a lot of people jump to conclusions, that's for sure. I mean, especially when I'm in situations like this, or for, say, when I'm walking around with my cane, which, to be honest, like, it makes sense when you think about it. Like, I can do things in short bursts, but if you want to make me stand for a long time, I'm not going to like that. I have nerve damage on my leg. I guess I'm just saying that this is all so strange, and living in society with this is just so strange. Like, I am literally certified walking around just... I have to be the crazy lady. Like, I have to. My body is demanding, like, this insane life. You know, so it's gonna have it.
But y'all know what makes me mad? What ruffles my feathers? It's when people that don't have a disability have something to say about people that have a disability. Like, I think you should really just keep your mouth closed if you finna say something stupid. It's like people genuinely do not understand where we be coming from unless you yourself are disabled or you have a loved one that you care about and they're disabled. Y'all just be saying stuff and it be like, why would you even let them words come up out your mouth? Like, what's wrong with you? Today I received a phone call from a place that I filed a complaint through. I filed a complaint because I used to stay at this apartment complex, and it was just so many concerns that I had in terms of my disability. For instance, there was a time where I was staying here and I was working at this apartment. My hands is filthy. Anyways, I used to work and stay at this apartment. There was a night where it was like 3 o'clock in the morning and the fire alarm goes off. I didn't know if it was real because I stayed in an apartment complex. It was like mostly college kids and they just be doing dumb stuff like pulling the alarm. It's 3 in the morning. What are you doing? But of course, at that time, I didn't know if it was real or not. And so I had to treat it like it was real. I had to get out of the building. So I get up, I go to the elevator. It's pitch dark. Like, no emergency lights, no none of that. So I go to get on the elevator, but the elevator's not working. I don't think you're supposed to get on the elevator when something like that happened anyways. But whatever. So once I noticed that I couldn't get on the elevator, and before I go on, like, I lived on the 3rd floor, so it wasn't a long way down. But you know, I don't think you're supposed to do that. Now, mind you, it's pitch black dark. Everybody is trying to get out of the building. So I'm going down the steps with my wheelchair. It's dark. Everybody's trying to go down the step. God, I don't know what be wrong with society because y'all be trifling. Not one person asked me if I needed help. How do y'all sleep at night? So then I see my homegirl and her boyfriend that was coming down the steps. And they was like, do you need help? Like, yes, please help me before I burn. So they got me out of the building. And then once that was all over, the next day I went to go talk to management about it because y'all got me effed up. Like, to hell with my life. So I'm like, what kind of things? I'm not even trying to come at them aggressively, but I'm just kind of like, what kind of things could we put in place to where I feel like I'm not going to die next time? Or even at least for your other disabled, like, tenants. Like, what are we putting in place to make sure, like, we feel safe? Or we safe? Because I'm paying y'all $1,000 a month at least, and y'all just going to let me burn? That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So one of the managers felt the need to say something to me.
Hi, my name is B, and I have autism. And I am a part of the small minority of autistic people who work a full-time job. But I'm getting to a point where I don't think that that's really a reality for me anymore. It's getting to the point where every single day, all I do is answer the phone. Every single day, after 8 hours of talking to people, all I can do is cry and shut down and be nonverbal, which then means the next day when I try to go back into work, I'm having the same issue. I've had to call out of work multiple times, even over the small period of time I've had this job. And it just gets to a point where I don't know if this will ever stop. And I think I'm hurting myself by refusing to believe that I just am too disabled to do these types of jobs. And I just want to know if any other autistic people relate, because at this point I'm feeling alone and defeated.
I have a disability, but people would never know that unless they know me and I've explained my story and what my life is like. That word, disability, comes with this stigma. You have to be in a wheelchair. You have to look a certain way. Now, currently, I'll show you what I look like. My arms are doing well. My legs are doing well. I'm doing pretty well today. So if I were to walk out of a car and I was in a handicap spot, chances are I'm getting some dirty looks. What people don't see when I'm at the park playing with my kids is that halfway through, I often have to go into the car, wait for my body to become paralyzed on the right side, my speech slurs, and I feel confused. Then after about 20 minutes to a half hour, if it's a good day, everything comes back and I go back out and play. Now that occurs daily. I don't know when it's going to happen. And sometimes the effects of it will last me all day, if not a couple of days. And I have days where I even question myself. Is this real? Do I really live with this? Regardless of what your disability is, what your chronic illness is, what your disease is, if it has put you in a situation where you are unable or disabled or different able, proving yourself to someone else, that's not your problem. That's a them problem.
A quick reminder, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's continue the video.
As a person living with a disability, like I do, I get looked at a lot. I don't mind it for the most part, but they look at me like I'm just not supposed to be where I am. Like if I'm outside, out and about, I get stared at a lot to the point where it's like uncomfortable. And just to remind you, disabled people are people too. They're allowed to just want to have fun. We're allowed to just be people. And want to be respected and want to be considered normal, not just an outcast or different because we look different. Everybody is supposed to be loved.
Disabled people go through so much. A lot of their insecurities come from not being accepted in society, being either judged or pitied. Put yourself in their shoes. It's not easy. And it's for life as well. It's not easy.
Hey, chronic illness baddies. I feel like I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that I'm disabled. For the longest time, I considered myself able-bodied and privileged. But I came to terms with the fact that I'm disabled. I have fibromyalgia, autism, and with fibromyalgia, there's other things that come up. Like, I've been diagnosed with EOE, which is like a stomach issue, chronic migraines, because fibromyalgia is a pain disorder. And I just want to talk more about what that's like, because I only recently got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Well, recent in the scale of my life. And I don't know. It's difficult because, like, as with most illnesses, they get worse with age, but the symptoms always showed up in my life. And fibromyalgia is a very interesting diagnosis because it's interconnected with so many aspects of your life. And recently I've been feeling so invalidated. So I just want to talk more about what it's like for other people who experience it. But it's also scary because, like, so many doctors invalidate you and the world gaslights you. And it's kind of like an invisible illness. So it makes you, like, second guess yourself. So I don't know. It's, like, scary, but it's also something that I feel like it's important to talk about. So hopefully this is the first of many where I publicly claim fibromyalgia and claim disability.
Okay, so this video is for anyone who's living with a TBI, concussion, post-concussion syndrome, or really any sort of like invisible injury or disability. I had a really fun day yesterday. You can see it in my last video, and I got out and about, and it's one of those days where anyone would look at me and say, like, you look fine, like you're living a normal life. But that was followed by being asleep. Like, on the way home, I passed out and like basically slept the rest of the day, all last night and all of today. Like, the one thing I will save any ounce of energy and just like get my ass out of bed for is my child. And so I was like, nope, get your shit together, Nash. You need to go get Zenny. So I went to go get my daughter from school, and I get there and my ex-husband's there, and he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't even know anymore now. And he was like, yeah, no, we had a full conversation where you agreed that I would get her today because she's going to a birthday party. And then I said, whose birthday party? I vaguely remember the conversation, but not really. And yeah, so I could have slept longer. Just to say that wonky days are normal. Forgetting stuff's normal, and that's okay, I think.
Something that I really struggle with living with a physical disability is when I use my disability accommodations, I like get in my head and feel guilty for doing it, but in a way that's like, if I stay home from something because I'm having a chronic pain flare up, and then while I'm at home, my pain gets better, I start to feel guilty because I'm like, I'm not in that much pain right now. I feel like I could have gone out. If that sounds like you, stop beating yourself up. If you're feeling better, it's because you took the time to do self-care things for yourself. If you feel up for going out and doing the thing now, go do it. But 9 times out of 10, that chronic pain flare-up would not have passed to me had I gone to the appointment. When you give yourself accommodations for any kind of disability, allow the self-care to actually help and care for you. That's what it's for. This can sometimes even apply to little things too. If you're having a shit day and your friend like bails on dinner with their mom to come make sure you're okay, and then when they're there, you're feeling loads better, so you feel like maybe I'm a dick. You're probably feeling loads better because your friend's there to support you. Allow yourself to feel cared for by the care you give yourself.
Here's real life for you guys, so you want real life. Here it is. Today, I am in pain, just trying to push through and make it through the day. So the last 2 days, I have been trying to get my house clean, doing a little bit at a time over the last 2 days. And every time I do, like, I'm usually in pain afterwards, but it's just something that's got to be done because I'm not fortunate enough to be able to pay someone to clean my house. And so maybe one day that'll happen, but as of now, it is not happening. And so it's just got to be done. But yeah, this is life as a disabled person who lives in chronic pain now. And I'm always sharing, like, trying to be positive and try to smile and stuff, but like, I want to be real with you as well. And so it did make me one of those viral coffees. And, you know, it was something simple, but it's something that I know that I will enjoy. And so on those days where I'm struggling, I just try to find the little things to take joy in. And I knew making this would be something that I would enjoy. And so that's what you have to do on days that you are struggling, like today, being in pain, you know. So that's all you can do to get through. And so if you're someone who struggles with chronic pain or just anything, I understand your struggle. I really do. And so all I can say as a little piece of advice, like I did, try to find just something simple, although it's not going to change the situation, but it can help. Like, you can get a little bit of joy out of something by a simple coffee or something like that. So yeah, that's all you can do. And I apologize for talking so slow in the video, but when I'm in pain like this, it is hard for me to think and even get my words out sometimes.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, because this is something that isn't talked about a lot, and that is being a disabled person and having a baby. It's not just pregnancy that is a worry when you are disabled, because obviously a lot of disabilities, a lot of health conditions can cause problems in pregnancy, but it's having a baby afterwards. It's caring for a baby, a toddler, a child, because that can a lot of times be hands-on. It can be very difficult for not just disabled women, but perfectly able people too. And I think it's something that's not talked about enough, and that is the worry that comes as a disabled person and having a baby. When me and my husband talked about having children, the very first thing that we talked about is how it was going to work with my disabilities and health conditions. We sat down and we were like, look, is it realistically going to be plausible for us to have this baby and it be properly looked after, properly cared for with the disabilities and health conditions I have? Because my husband is the one who goes out to work, so he will be here for paternity leave and, you know, as much as he possibly can on his days off, but there will be days where I am left alone with my child, and we had to realistically sit down and say, is it going to be possible for me to properly care for this newborn, for this toddler? It was a really difficult conversation to have too, because it's the case of, if it turns out no, that means that children aren't going to work for us. But luckily, the disabilities and health conditions I have aren't something that will pose a severe difficulty in caring for a baby, for a child, toddler, etc. So I have limited mobility, but I can be mobile. I am in a wheelchair, but I am what's called an ambient wheelchair user. So I can walk, I can stand, just not for long periods at a time, no longer than a couple of minutes. But we tried and tested, and I would be able to transfer the baby from the crib to me, from me to the crib, from me to a bouncer for tummy time, to a pram, to a car seat. All of that would be manageable. I would be able to, my house is set out so that I can use my wheelchair around it, but I can also use a smaller mobility aid to get about, so I could hold a baby and use a walking stick if needed, but I don't always need a mobility aid to get around my flat from one room to the other. That's not a problem. I can hold a baby comfortably. There's also the conversation of just mentally how taxing it's going to be to cope with not only my own health, but looking after this person who's completely dependent on me. And it's something that I've talked to with therapists, with doctors. This isn't a decision that was taken lightly to have a baby. We have made sure that every possible route has been explored to make sure that if we can have children, that those children will be able to be looked after and cared for properly. But thank you for bringing this up, because it's not something that's talked about enough, I think. And it's something that a lot of people don't even realise is a big consideration. So thank you very much.
Hi guys, so it's been a minute since I posted anything, but today's been a day. Happy New Year, by the way. Today's been a day. So I currently live across the bridge in the province of Quebec, and I'm been frustrated by the fact that everything for people with disability in Quebec, in the part where I am, just feels like it's so hard. So today I went to do a blood test. Granted, this is just one place that I went to, but I was just so put off, like with my driver's license, everything, the back and forth, all that I had to do with it. Yeah, but the blood, I went to draw the blood today, and obviously I had some hand stop, right? So I really have the elbow part where typically I draw the blood from. But how everybody else, even in my good country of Jamaica, I've never been turned back from anywhere when I went to draw blood because they couldn't do it. I understand that, yes, they tried a few places which I was open to because, you know, the vein hard to find. Anyways, I rolled up to this place. Bad on me again. I probably should have called, but in my mind, I'm like, no, sure enough. So, I'm not going to call the place name because, again, at one location I tried. I went there, gave the lady my requisition and so on. She tell me, say, $200 for it. I'm like, $200, but then again, it's private. And I say, that $200 expensive, but anyways. Then I gave it to her, so she done to say me not nothing, me not have it. And then she tell me the cost, and I'm like, you might have to try my feet because I'm not sure if you will find any veins here or here. She's like, no, I can't do that. I've never done that before. I can't do that. I'm like, huh? I mean, the most obvious places I typically try is my feet. But I've been to places in Ontario where I lived before, in like Scarborough, Toronto area where I lived before, and I walk up in there and, you know, they take it and they're like, okay, this is going to be challenging and whatnot. But the phlebotomists were very experienced and, you know, they tried different needles and all of that. The lady pretty much looked at me and like, no, I can't help you. So I'm like, what? And then she was telling me about another place. Matter of fact, she couldn't even give me the name or direction I place. Language barriers. But today was frustrating for me. Living in the province of Quebec. If you're not a square, you can't live here. You gotta be circle me, don't fit.
Pros and cons of living with a chronic disability. And yes, there are pros. I have narcolepsy with cataplexy, and one con is no one knows what that means. Or they commonly confuse narcolepsy with necrophilia. One pro of having a disability is obviously the perks. I've gotten passes for shorter wait times at theme parks, extended time on homework and tests in school, and my own dorm and special parking pass at college. The con is I live with a disability that requires me to need those things. Another pro, I always get to be a passenger princess since no one wants me to drive in case I fall asleep at the wheel again. The con is obviously I might fall asleep at the wheel, so my driving abilities are limited. Another con is that I really can't stay out late, but a pro is that I guess I have a built-in excuse to leave. I'm so sorry, I'm just so tired, I have to go. One pro is my parents feel super guilty after years of not believing me that I was tired. The con is obviously no one believed me, so it took years of thinking I was lazy before I was diagnosed. A pro of narcolepsy, I can rot in bed all day and not feel guilty, knowing my body just needs the rest. The con, this can sometimes interfere with plans or responsibilities, so my schedule has to be very flexible. One pro everyone assumes is that I can sleep anywhere at any time, but insomnia is actually a common symptom of narcolepsy. Like, that seems so backwards, huh? Another con is I'm limited on the careers that I could have, like I probably couldn't be a teacher and definitely not an airline pilot. But a pro is that as a content creator, narcolepsy has actually opened opportunities for me, and I'm also able to spread awareness and relate to other people who have chronic disabilities.
So, since it's still Disability Pride Month, I wanted to talk to everybody about why it's so common for people who are disabled to have small businesses instead of working a typical 9-to-5 job. It's not always because we can't do that job. It's because when we ask for accommodations specifically related to a disability, that is used against us, even in progressive companies. My full-time job is at a company that claims to be very progressive and very pro-diversity and very pro-disabled people working for them. But the moment that I ask for accommodations specifically relating to my disability, I become, like a problem that needs to be gotten rid of. And I don't even think it's a conscious bias a lot of the time, but it's definitely fucking there. And I just wanted to talk about it. As soon as I came out as a disabled person who needs accommodations, my autonomy was taken away completely. My ability to make decisions based on what I think is best throughout the workday is taken away. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the typical autistic thing where some solutions make more sense to us than make sense to other people and we really need to explain that and stuff like that. No, this is like personal shit of me handling my own business in whatever way is most efficient and reaches the best result, just like any neurotypical coworker would. Whenever I do that, it is heavily scrutinized. And to give those who are doubting me right now an example, I've told so many neurotypical people about this, and every single one has said that's fucking crazy. Okay, so I have a MacBook, and MacBooks and corporate printers don't like to work together. I needed a special printer driver in order to print something out on label paper. If you don't know, you need to put label paper in the settings on your printer or else it won't print right. So I took the initiative to get the driver sorted out. I contacted our tech team to ask them to install it for me. But our tech team can be very slow. So in order to get the thing that I needed printed out done, I just used a different printer. And to be clear, this is something that my neurotypical coworkers do all the time. When our printer breaks, they use a different one. It's not a big deal. When they do it, it's not a big deal. When I do it, I'm not following directions. Even though the end result was exactly the same, and any neurotypical person in my position would have done the same thing, when I do it, it's a problem. Another example, I take initiative at work by making documents for people that I think would help help them with certain tasks. And when I save that document, I put it somewhere that I think makes sense. Somewhere where I think everybody else could find it. Now, I'm more than willing to admit that because I'm autistic, sometimes the way that I sort things doesn't make sense. But tell me what you would do in that situation. If a coworker of yours put something where you don't think it makes sense to put, what would you do? Would you have a conversation with them, asking them if they'd be willing to move it to another place? Or would you report them to HR? Because my coworker reported me to HR. You know, I might not be like the most typically social person out there, but interacting with me is not that hard. Asking me questions is not that hard. You don't have to treat me like I have Ebola. And it's so frustrating to me as somebody who seeks a certain level of perfection and, good workmanship, when my file is so thick of things that I supposedly did wrong, that could have been solved with a simple 5-minute conversation. But nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to just ask. And you would think that an HR representative would be fine with mediating that sort of thing, asking if they had asked me first, just to, give me a fair shot at things. But no. I don't need a fair shot. I just need to get the fuck out. And I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, why don't you go work as a stalker at Walmart? Then you won't have to talk to people. But the stalker at Walmart makes $10 an hour. I can't live off of that. What the fuck am I supposed to do when I can't live without the fucking medical benefits and money that I get from a typical neurotypical job? This is why our life expectancy is so low. And I can't wait until my business is successful enough that I can take control of my own fucking life and do what I need to do for myself.
I'm well aware that the world does not follow me, but I would like to say for those that do follow me, if you ever meet another little person, do not start praying with them before asking them. Do not put your hand on their head and start praying before they know what you're doing. Be expecting retaliation if you ever touch me or any other little person, even if your intentions are so good. Not every little person is religious. Not every little person wants to be preyed upon. Definitely not every little person wants to be touched. And don't you dare touch me in my head again. Yeah, okay? Look, is life hard for little people? Yes. But look at how life is so hard for you and you're average. Life is hard for everyone. Life is easy for everyone. It's just on how you take your day to day. But don't think that I need prayers. And definitely don't touch me. I don't handle that well, and it won't be a let's hug it out kind of situation. All the love. Peace out.
So I'm disabled, and this woman today saw me walking down to my car in a parking garage, and she came up and she knocks on my window. And so I roll down my window and I go, yeah. And she goes, are you okay? And I'm thinking maybe she wants to park next to me, and I did like a really, really bad job parking. So I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I know I did a really crappy parking job, but I'm leaving right now. And she's like, no, but are you okay? I saw you walking down here. So yeah, I couldn't figure out how to get down to my car from the top. So I just like walked through the gate to get to my car. But I feel like that's not that crazy to do. So she's like, I saw you walking down to your car. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was being stupid and couldn't figure out how to get to my car. And she goes, well, do you want me to drive you? And I'm like, no, thank you. And so she walks away. And then I just got home, and I've been thinking this whole time, like, oh, my windshield wiper is on. Like, why did this lady say that? And then I was finally like, oh, she saw me walking and she thought I was drunk. Okay. So, to that lady, if she's on here, I appreciate you being a good Samaritan, but no, I was not drunk, and I do not drunk drive, as no one should. I am just disabled.
Hi, so I want to talk about the difference between using your disability as an excuse versus your disability being a reason. So I've been told many times that I'm using my disability as an excuse not to grow or learn, and an excuse as to why I put myself in horrible situations. I personally have very poor situational awareness, and I'm constantly unaware of my surroundings. I tend to be very gullible, naive, and trusting. I trust a lot of people that I shouldn't. And I have repeatedly ended up in very bad situations with very bad people. Someone could come up to me and be like, hey, come inside, I have strawberry ice cream, but I'm seriously gonna hurt you. And I'd be like, oh my god, strawberry ice cream? And walk right in. Anyways, I've done so much therapy to try and get better at it. I've tried making like red flags lists because I love lists, and I genuinely hope I'm getting better at it, but I'm probably not. The point is that in situations like this, you're not using your disability as an excuse. Your disability is a reason for why you are the way you are. But there are circumstances where you might be using your disability as an excuse. Now, I used to be a bitch. I wasn't diagnosed with autism until I was almost 20, so I didn't even know why nobody liked me. All I knew was that I was supposedly mean. I had so much trouble apologizing for anything, even after people would tell me I was wrong. Daddy issues. I'm a very blunt person, and because I have ADHD too, I have no filter when I speak, and sometimes I just blurt things out. And this is a PSA for people who don't know this yet either, but this is a learning experience. Let's say you say something and someone else says that was rude, that hurt my feelings. You should not respond by just saying I have autism and be done with it. That is an excuse, not an apology. When someone goes out of their way to tell you you're rude, you should apologize. And it's okay to include autism in your apology too, you just need to expand on it a little bit more. You can say something like, I'm so sorry, I'm autistic, I'm very blunt sometimes, and I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. That way, they don't just mark you off as a horrible human being. This is a big learning curve, and a lot of times there's not an immediate fix to this. Things like this come with growth. And it comes with time because it's a big change in habit and an uncomfortable change in routine. Bye guys.
My position in the disabled community is honestly like a white passing person in the black community. Obviously, I benefit from stuff because you can't really tell that I'm disabled at first. At least not until you ask me to like write something or do basic math. Like simply have a conversation with me, you can't tell. But ask me to do simple tasks, because sometimes I might ask you to repeat yourself or restate it in a different way, because my learning disability has more so to do with my comprehension level. I can't always comprehend things, so people think I'm stupid. So like I'm like on the first level of like disabled, if that makes any sense. It's not that detrimental, it's not that obvious, but it does affect me in my day-to-day life. I just want to say that obviously not every disability is visible or extremely obvious by having a conversation with the person. The worst thing anyone's ever said to me is when I was talking to them and I told them I had a disability because I was struggling with my homework, and they were just like, oh, I can tell. That was so extremely offensive. And I just want to say that I was one step from being in the special room, you know, like the where the special kids stayed. I was almost put in that room, but my mom fought for me not to be placed in that room.
I appreciate you guys watching the video today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.